Perfect, 6:02.
Cool, all right. It's
There we go.
6:02 and I will call the meeting to order for the Select Board Town of Georgetown for Tuesday, April 22nd, 2025. This meeting's being recorded on our YouTube thing. And is there any public comment to begin with? I don't see any, so throw it over to you.
All right, we had no items to be added to the agenda tonight. I will say at 6:15, we'll begin a meeting with the Financial Advisory Committee.
Hang
for
on
the
a minute.
present-
Didn't Aria want to add an executive session?
I do want to add an executive session, that deals with but I want to.
Personnel issue.
A
Yeah,
personnel issue.
but I think you need to add it to the agenda at the start.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
all right. Personnel regarding, an executive session regarding personnel. All
And
right,
somebody knows the right citation for that, I'm
it is
sure.
in our minutes.
Yes.
I know that, the minutes of the 25th. So we will be adding an executive session regarding personnel.
It'll be brief, but,
Perfect. And so, as I was saying, at 6:15, we'll be meeting with the Financial Advisory Committee for the presentation of the proposed 2025-26 town budget. I'd also, as we move on to minutes, note that the minutes were sent out to the board today. I did get a couple of minor tweaks from Bronwyn and one good substantive one noting that we accepted the low bid on a snowplow contract versus just the bid to add clarity. So we
Thank
can
you for
take them as a
catching that.
slate or separately, or,
I'll
With
move to
those,
approve. I'll move to
Go ahead.
approve both sets of minutes as amended.
second,
right,
All in favor?
3-0. Perfect. I would also note that the Mary had sent along March financials last week, and they were part of the packet. Regarding assessing items, I just would note that Bill Van Tynen will be in town tomorrow. And we are excited to start visiting some of the abatement lots to have him make some final determinations before it comes back to a future select board meeting. In terms of correspondence, I just note that we received the State of Maine's Maine Climate Council update with a lot of good resources in there. I also included the City of Bath's upcoming household hazardous waste information, what kind of objects are accepted, not accepted, dates, and all that jazz. We also included the transfer station's updated brochure, and that is on our website now. Copies here for new residents or for anyone really can come pick those up. And there are copies down at the transfer station. Towards the end of May, the Georgetown Volunteer Fire Department will be hosting their annual plant sale. The Maine Municipal Association put out their legislative bulletin. And the last item comes from GIFE, and I just wanted to flag that they have an upcoming event with the Halcyon String Quartet at Robin Hood Free Meeting House. It's a children, family-friendly event, and it is free for all that can attend. In regards to continuing items, we've received none between now and the last meeting. And we've got 10 minutes before our scheduled appointment, so we can jump into board member and committee updates.
State had the planning board last week. Was it last week? Yes. And they've got a pile of their surveys back. That was the most exciting part of that meeting, I think.
You need a shovel for how many you've
Yes.
got.
that's great.
And beyond that, the only one, the TOPMB had some people coming in asking about the kayakers, and they explained themselves, and they just explained why they didn't do a permit, special use permit or whatever for the dock. I think those are the only two meetings I've had since the last select board meeting.
Thank you, John. Bronwyn or Aria?
I don't think there's anything new from either the Conservation or the Solid Waste Committee, although there was a report today, I think it was today, on the surveillance cameras that showed 3 kids, maybe teenagers, basically using the transfer station, the area in front of the compactor like some kind of a playground. It's disturbing that these intrusions continue to happen and appear to be normal behavior to the people involved. In other, the Conservation Commission has upcoming events. They're scheduling a presentation with a mosquito, an expert on mosquito control. And his website is very interesting in terms of what spraying, for instance, cannot accomplish, and other techniques for reducing your exposure. And there is a date for that, but I don't recall it. It's going to be on their website. It'll be a Zoom presentation. Big night is in process. There have been a couple of perfect nights when the temperature was around 40, it was raining, and the salamanders were slithering across the tarmac. And the other positive news from that flank is that if in fact there is money for climate resiliency programs, which remains a question, we should get some, because our application, along with Aroustic, was very well received, lots of high marks, and will probably be funded if in fact the state has the money to fund it. That's it from me.
Thank you, Bronwyn. Aria?
Let's see, none of my committees met. We are still, we're organizing the working waterfront ordinance committee and just trying to land a date for folks to meet on that. Thank you for forwarding that email. That'd be great. And so I think we'll get that done by mid-May to have our first meeting and elect the chair of that committee. And the school board met last week and passed its budget. The school board committee passed its budget, and then I think the rest of my committees have not met, although obviously the rec committee is meeting April 29. I think that's already on the community calendar, and the Get to Know Your Neighbors coming right up on May 4, 12 to 2 at the community center.
Thank you, Aria.
Thanks.
Any questions for Aria or any of the reports? If not, I will jump into my town administrator update and I will be brief. I just wanted to note that office hours this week, the town office is open its regular business hours. However, the clerk's desk is going to be closed until Thursday. It will be opening up at 9 a.m., regular business hours. And Alex is opening up an additional day this week on Friday from 9 to 1. So any residents that, reach out and say, hey, I can't get in, let them know about that extra day and hopefully we can make it work. I also wanted to touch base regarding the Boston Post cane. I heard from the recipient this morning, Dolores Weiss in Georgetown is now the longest lived citizen on the island. And with her accepting, in the past, some folks have declined the honor. We will work to schedule a presentation where this outgoing select board chair will be able to present the Boston Post cane. I mentioned earlier that Bill Van Tynen will be in town tomorrow. If any select board members have any questions, thoughts, comments that you'd like me to pass on or set up a time to connect with Bill, we can do so.
Tyler, about how many properties? I'm trying to remember how many got slated for him.
I believe we're gonna be doing 4 visits tomorrow, 3 or 4.
Okay, I thought it was about 4.
And then there's one that we're gonna be flagging a split for him that was part of an abatement that we did a while back that we can at least start the dialogue for how to fix that in the software.
Right, okay.
I'd also note that tomorrow, there's going to be a town clerk class, and our next town clerk is signed up for that class. It's put on by the Clerks Association. I'd also note that there are some additional classes in May that we're coordinating to get her attendance there. That way we can hit the ground running in July without hiccups on what services can be provided. I'd note in regards to a moderator for town meeting, I have reached out to John Cunningham and I'm waiting for a confirmation on his schedule. I'm hoping to have that by the end of the week. And I wanted to flag that in December, we received a letter from Bill Webster that we've discussed a little bit at the board. I wanted to flag that I spoke with Mr. Webster regarding this letter last Monday and again today. And I shared that the way town meeting warrants are currently written and have been written allow residents to offer amendments down to the budget, meaning that somebody could get up at town meeting if they wanted to reduce a warrant article and do so. The way the warrants are currently written, they can't be raised. That would be an open warrant article versus a capped or closed. And I just want to flag that ordinances can't be amended either. And so, I just want to share that that's an ongoing conversation. I know that Bronwyn has a suggestion and I see her hand up, so I will defer to Bronwyn.
Thanks, Tyler. Yes, I would, as I recall, Bill Webster's letter asked us to change the wording of town warrant articles because he felt that it didn't give adequate opportunity to residents to change the amount of money that was being appropriated. And I understand that your interpretation of the manual for town moderators allows, as you said, for amendments to go down from whatever is proposed. So I would like to suggest, I would like to recommend, move even, that we ask Tyler to verify his interpretation with the legal department at MMA. And assuming that that is correct, that we simply ask the moderator at the town meeting in June to announce at the beginning of the meeting the procedure by which residents can reduce the amount of the appropriation in each budget article, rather than change the wording of all of the articles. I would even suggest that we might include in the packet that people pick up at the beginning of town meeting a brief sentence or two explanation of how that works. Because I believe that we don't need to change what Georgetown has been in the habit of doing for many years before my presence in town or on the board. We perhaps need to educate our residents of their right, their opportunity. So I move that we ask Tyler to verify his interpretation of the moderator's manual with legal at MMA, and that if they verify his interpretation, we go along, continue with the wording we've always used, but inform the public at the beginning of the meeting of their option to add an amendment to reduce any particular budget item on the warrant. That's my motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
And I would just also flag that Mr. Webster and I discussed this a little bit today, and that there likely would be a next step on some verification and a discussion with the moderator. And I would just note that we're still working on coming to the same understanding, and I look forward to reaching that conclusion.
Okay, Tyler, are you recording this?
Yes.
Okay, I just couldn't see that, so
Yep.
I know that's,
Yes.
thank you, okay, just wanted to make sure.
Okay, it's moved and seconded, everybody in favor of that, sorry, looking into that.
All right. And I am seeing, are you in?
Yeah,
Three?
if there's no discussion, I'm in favor.
Yeah, perfect. And so we will get on the horn to MMA Legal and do some verification on that front. I have two other items and then I will quickly jump in because I'm a minute over, Bob. My apologies. I just wanted to note that the shellfish seeding project has been a success thus far with over 10,000 seed clams or a spat planted. And anybody that wants pictures, Jim Peavy has put out some really good ones. And lastly, this is the most important thing I'll be sharing today. If you are headed to the transfer station tomorrow, I have it on very strong authority that the Girl Scouts will be at the church looking to sell some remaining Girl Scout cookies, and I was told, please share that message. So I am doing so. And with that, my report is over.
Are you saying drive carefully?
Absolutely. And
He's saying
town
bring your wallet.
Right, bring your money.
and your town administrator loves the caramel delights, just saying. And so with that, I turn this over to Mary and Bob to discuss the budget.
Mary and I talked a little bit, and, over the years, this has been done a couple of, three different ways. And it's either go through the budget page by page, or go through it and a summary for the total town budget, and if you have questions on individual line items, you know, town office salaries, general government, et cetera, we can then go in depth on that particular budget item or category. So, but, you know, whichever way it be.
That's my preference. I don't need to go through everybody's budget. It's pretty, it's pretty, evident from each of the spreadsheet, tabs. So, but there are specific questions that we may have about specific budgets, but that's just me.
And before we go much further, Aria, you have more experience with Zoom than I.
Okay.
Is this share button here the way I share my screen?
It is.
Cause I have the budget up and I wanna make sure folks at home are able to follow. Perfect, right there.
Yeah, and then you hit share.
Okay, that means I don't need to get a copy of it.
But I need to admit the fire chief, cause he just popped in and that's, how do I do that?
And well, it'll come up. It'll pop up. There you go.
Perfect. Hey, Bronwyn, can you see the budget now?
Yes, I can. But hearing fiscal year, the opening
Um,
page.
Right,
Before you go any further,
right, that's now
Fine.
6.
for the hearing
Yes, it's,
is incorrect.
Thank you, Bob. And this is a working document that, just to reiterate that, so I will hop to the total town budget outlook page. And
Tyler, I'm not sure that the admit button worked. If you want to pop back down to your Zoom and make sure. It looked like it was having a little bit of trouble. Go back up. Okay, I think.
Says
I
18,
see
so I think
18
we're
now. I
good.
think you're good. Yep.
I
Just
thought
didn't
I
want
saw
to
your
leave
video.
Brian out.
Okay, you need to enlarge the type, the font, I can't read the
Can you
numbers.
pass me that keyboard, or Bob,
If you move this over as well, you
Yep.
can hit that.
I just gotta hit the control button to scroll in. And this is a great dry run ahead of our budget hearing in the gymnasium.
That's
How's
better,
that
but do it again. There you go.
Are we good there or a little more?
No, that's fine. You don't have the entire page at that level, but you can read all the numbers.
We will scroll down as we go.
Oh, I have it here too.
Oh, yeah, of course you. Okay.
Multiple copies.
And I would flag for anyone that's attending the meeting virtually, we did upload this PDF to the town meeting information tab today.
I was asked about that. Thank you.
So anyway, you all got this budget last week. Just so you know, this is a working document. You'll see in your packet that there were a couple of spots that had yellow highlights. That just means that number still needs to be looked at. We're talking about sick and vacation fund, and then the FICA taxes and the paid family medical and all of that stuff. Rather than go through the budget or go through the numbers over and over and over again, I usually wait until the select board has approved the salary portions of the budget. And then I go through and calculate what the FICA taxes and what the paid family medical and all that stuff is going to be. So those are the holes that you'll see right now in the budget. As far as the total town budget sheet, there's just a couple of things I can say about this. It's pretty self-explanatory. The school committee came in at a very, very mild or a very small increase. Town officer salaries are up a bit. But anyway, you can go down through and see all of those numbers, but a couple of things underneath all the total requests, we've got homestead reimbursement. You'll see that there's a significant drop in that, 17,000. that's strictly related to your, mill rate adjustment. Okay, before the mill rate was 9.75, last year it was 6.02. Your revenue from the state of Maine has not changed any. It's just that our mill rate is lower, okay? And then the second piece, is revenue sharing. And currently, just so you know, this is on the state website as 78,903. And I cut that in half because of all of the stuff that's going on with the state. We're a little concerned about whether or not we're going to receive said funding. Especially with the people's veto and all of that stuff that's going on at the state level. We may or may not change this. Some managers are leaving it alone and going with the state number. A lot are not. I would just hesitate at this point. I'm hoping by the time we get to budget hearing, we'll have a little bit more, but I'm not sure that we will, you know?
It's better to, on that line, to have too little than too much. It's a whole lot easier for the state for us to say the state gave us more money.
Right,
As opposed to,
yeah,
oh, we overestimated.
yeah,
I definitely don't want, I wanna keep that number. I think that was a good idea.
yeah.
So, and people, for those of y'all who tuned in last week, you remember the information that was shared, and Tyler went into it a little bit about, and Bronwyn, I think you did too, that if the people's veto goes forward, then we really will, all of that will be shifted to property tax, and homeowners. So we really want to be paying attention to that, piece of, proposed legislation.
Well, Aria, in relation to that, the Maine Municipal Association Legislative Bulletin this week reported that the Attorney General's office had a meeting with the Appropriations Committee in which they disclosed or pointed out that the citizens' veto does not even have to pass to shut down state government. If they get enough signatures to put it on the ballot, the state will have no money July 1. So I think that our plea to Georgetown residents has to be, no matter how much you like citizen engagement at the ballot box, please don't sign that petition unless you truly want the entire state government to shut down July 1st, because there appears to be no alternative. It doesn't even wait for the vote, which won't happen until November. So, yes, all of this money is in jeopardy.
A lot of sense.
And I would just add as well, not as to just jump in, but as we look at some of these state revenues, keeping the half number in there is great in the sense that we're still placeholding that part of the budget. And should the sky fall and all of these things unfold, because there are a lot of things that are still in flux, we would still have time between our annual town meeting and commitment in the fall to hold a special town meeting if we needed to. So just for what that's worth.
Right.
Sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah, sorry,
That's
Mary,
right.
but.
No,
people need
that's
to
fine.
know Sort of what
That's-
that's about, and
Absolutely.
again, I appreciate you being
Yeah.
more conservative in that, on that line.
And then the next one, is the undesignated fund balance application. And I used our carryover number of 150,000 this year. Again, to me, that number is still kind of in flux, as you know, or part of my, update, which I'll get to in a few minutes, is that we're still awaiting a June 2024 audit. So I don't have a real good handle on that. And, I've been on the auditors about it. They were waiting for something from the school. I'm not sure if they've gotten that yet, but ideally I'll have that audit at the end of this month or the beginning of May. The other piece of this is the property tax revenue, non-property tax revenues. You'll notice that those are down significantly, and that is the majority of that is due to the fact that we had a lot of road work done last year that had grants and things. So that's really where that 437 down comes from. So, at this point, you know, we're looking at the total that needs to be raised by property taxes up being a little over 7%. And again, these are still, they're solid numbers, but they're still subject to a little bit of change.
But the other half of that is the total requests are down.
Right, I down 1.5, yeah, 1.5.
1.5%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty significant.
Yeah, it is, it is.
The next page.
Yeah, well, and the next page just goes over that total town budget page again, just without the school
Without sweat.
and county and overlay. So I'm not sure if we need to go through that or not. That's entirely up to the board. Or
Can
if
I
they
ask a
wanna-
question, Mary,
Of course.
about the county tax? What kind of a number is that? Is that a firm number, a projected number? Have they had a hearing on the budget?
They have not had a hearing on the budget yet. In fact, their equivalent of the FAC, their Budget Advisory Committee, is meeting with the county board on Thursday. And the Budget Committee is recommending some decreases. I've heard various different stories about whether, you know, what the probability of success is with that. But there will not be a public hearing on this until next month. In May.
Wow.
So that number will not be firm for a little while yet.
So
And
it's
that number's
currently,
actually down. Go ahead.
well, it looks like it's up by 18%.
It is up by 18. It was up by 22.
Yeah.
See,
So
what was it
dropped
up?
A little bit.
They have
Then
come
what
down
was
a
it
little
up
bit.
last year?
I think
It
was
went
like
up a lot
14%.
last year.
I think it was 14 or 15. Yeah. Yeah.
And Tyler, can you say one more time for folks out there where they can find this document?
So if they go to georgetownme.com, click on town office, click on scheduled meetings, underneath there is an upcoming meetings tab.
Okay,
Or upcoming select board meeting information tab. If anybody can't find this tonight in real time, they can email me tomorrow and I can get it to them. It'll be up on the website for a while.
thank you very much.
Yeah.
So
So, yeah, so basically, we can go through the sheets if you, I just don't, you know, I don't,
Do we wanna go through at least and if questions pop up or?
well,
okay,
Ari had said that, you know, she would prefer to go through the summary,
right,
Right,
and I don't know if
Yeah, whichever, I mean, if you've got
And
questions.
Bronwyn, I
Yeah.
don't know what Bronwyn's feeling is on that, so, you know.
Yeah.
Whichever way you wanna go.
Well, I'd like to talk about the fire department increase. And maybe that's the only one. But I'd like to dig into that a bit more.
and I've got a couple further down, so
sure. Fire department's on page 16,
Thank you for that.
no problem at all. Okay, so the fire department budget, is Terry's animal over there, but we'll review it. Firefighter, so I'll start right at the very top. You'll see that the payroll items are up 40%. Last year, the fire department had come to us with a plan of increasing the wages on the personnel that arrives on, you know, at a fire call. And in training, yes, which also relates to training. And we had agreed, they had wanted to increase it significantly last year. So I had agreed to a 2-year plan with a starting pay of $18 this year and $20 plus steps next year. That is what is reflected here. But actually, let me back up a little bit. The the payroll, fire and EMS admin maintenance is up 124%. That is, we have currently in budget a 1 day a week stipend for someone to come in and work with Brian at the fire station, doing things like administrative things, working on the equipment, you know, making sure the ambulance is stocked, things like that. That position is requested for next year to be 2 days a week. And part of, and half of that 29,120 will be reimbursed by an EMS grant that Brian has been approved for. So that's why that's a huge increase there, but, like I said, 14,000 of it you'll see on the revenue sheet as a grant. The next line, the payroll admin, up 28.2% is the chief's, what the chief is doing on a weekly and a monthly basis. He's asked that position now be a salary position, meaning he will not be paid for any calls at all. He will not be paid for training, wouldn't be paid for any of that stuff. He would be paid a flat fee or a flat salary of 30,000. The next line, the 35,000, up 20.7%, is what Terry and I were just referring to. Of the $18 plus steps this year, going to $20 plus steps the next year. That we have 5 or so new fire personnel, but that's really not what's driving that number. What's really driving that number is the increase from $18 per hour, starting without steps to the $20 per hour. That also rolls through to your training, because those said people are also going to training hours and being paid at a little bit of a higher, at $2 more an hour, higher rate. The stipends, there's only a couple of stipends that are paid now. One of them is the medical director that the state of Maine requires us to have, another one of those unfunded state mandates. And the other one is the safety officer. When Ken Desmond comes down and does training and does a lot of work with Brian, he gets paid a stipend for that as well. So that pretty much is the personnel lines. And the first line, I think I skipped it, the one that's up 56% is strictly the training. What?
5 new people,
For 5.
5 new people.
Right, yes, I'm sorry, yes, 5 new people are going to school, as well as, you know, them bringing in trainers to train. So that's why that's up. So, that, like I said, that whole, subtotal line is up 40%. So that's where that all comes from. Looking at operating expenses, communications and technologies are up. I think that
New software.
that has to do mostly with the new software.
I wondered about that.
Yeah,
The software suite is $2,550.
right.
Yeah.
And then your I am responding software, which is how they get the calls, is almost $1,000 a year. So it was 735 this year, but we're at the end of a 3-year contract
Right.
with everything else going on. So
Can I ask, are there increased expenses associated with, once the tower's up? You know, is that, or will all of our software, existing software that they have, the new suite that we are purchasing, will that work with anything that has to do with the cell tower communications?
This really doesn't have to do with
Nothing,
software.
Yeah.
perfect,
Yeah.
great, thank you.
Yeah. EMS and ambulance is up a little bit, or up, you know, $5,500. I think $4,500 or $4,600 of that is directly related to a new agreement that we have signed with the city of Bath to do mutual aid sort of thing on the EMS side. If nobody is in town to respond, Bath will be sending an ambulance. Whether or not they transport the patient does not matter. We will be charged regardless. We'll be just charged at a lower rate if they don't transport.
Just
Okay.
to note, it's $450 a trip
right,
and we're allowing for 10
for
trips.
10 trips, yeah.
That's what the
Yeah.
budget is.
And then the equipment replacement is just up $500. The gear, uniforms and health expenses, again, that's pretty much up for those people that are new coming on. And then the maintenance on the building and grounds, there's a few things that need to be done at the fire station. I unfortunately don't have my list here. Terry probably does, but I don't have it here, but it had to do with some siding issues that had to be done, some door work.
Here between the doors.
Yeah. Yeah, so,
Normal maintenance, wear and tear.
yeah. And the maintenance on the vehicles, as we all know, those things keep going up. And then the maintenance of the equipment, the same thing. I think that we've got some new equipment there that we're maintaining as well.
The main expense there is that we now have to test the forestry hoses,
Right,
which is about a $2,200.
right.
It's a state requirement now.
Yeah,
that they be
another-
tested.
right.
Another unfunded.
Another
state-
unfunded mandate.
Yes,
Pretty much,
another one.
yeah. And then the miscellaneous recruitment and outreach is up $100. Office expenses are up. I believe that was for a new computer, I think. And something else at the fire station. Like I said, I don't have my notes with me on that. And then the utilities, just up a little bit because we just don't know what's gonna happen. And then vehicle fuel, we're actually a little bit low this year, so we dropped that a little bit. So that portion of the, excuse me, the operating expense portion of the budget has gone up 23%.
I'll add a little clarity to a couple things. The
Sure.
office expenses. There's a chief's phone subsidy of $600,
That's right.
which we
Okay.
agreed on. There's also, so they can save money on training personnel expenses, i.e. traveling to the training, coming back. You can do it by Zoom now, so they're buying some Zoom equipment for $1,000.
Yeah.
Should also be noted on gears, uniforms and health expense. The gear is about $4,000, $3,500, $4,000 a new recruit. We have 5 new recruits. GBED,
Auxiliary.
the auxiliary is chipping in 4,000 on that,
Okay.
which has reduced the cost.
Okay.
Okay.
And is the salary request, I assume it's a fiscal year 26 request then?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
And then the reserve funds, we started a new capital reserve last year for capital equipment. I'm sorry, for capital equipment. Not emergency vehicle related. And they're asking to put $20,000 into that account this year rather than 10. And then the emergency vehicle reserve fund, they've just asked for an additional $10,000 in that fund. So making the reserve fund appropriation 80,000. Okay, for a grand total of 311,870. And that's a 31% increase in the total budget, 25.7 in appropriation. So, not sure if Brian has anything that he wants to add further to that. Or if there are any other questions on that.
You did better than I could have.
Okay.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you.
I see Bronwyn's hand is up and I
Oh.
see Brian popping on the screen.
Yes,
What, Robin's question first?
Sure.
Bronwyn, you are muted, so we can see you talking, but we can't hear you.
I did that to suppress my coughing. Okay,
you go.
so the Five Islands station isn't active. So what is the reserve fund for?
well, that's it. We have a reserve fund of 15,000 that has been built over the years. We haven't put any money in that account for quite some time. So that money could really be utilized to refurb the building if they needed to do that to, do anything to it, make it.
So we're not adding any money to that reserve fund in this
No.
budget.
No, not
okay.
at all. No.
Okay.
And
I
right
guess,
now, that building is being used basically for storage.
Right,
And
Right.
It is a town building,
Right.
so the town's also looking for storage space for records and stuff like that, so there's room there where the records could be stored without incurring any additional expenses to the town.
It should be noted that the building is not heated.
It's cold
Right,
storage,
right,
right?
Cold storage.
Cold storage,
Yeah,
yeah.
right.
right.
Yeah,
I'm
we
just,
took
I
that
was,
out of the budget a
I'm
couple
sorry,
years
I
ago.
was just confused by the headings because I thought we were putting money, additional money into that fund.
No,
That
no,
was my
no.
question.
This is showing the balance, Bronwyn, at the end of June of each year for those funds on this slide. So for the last 3 years, it's been 15,816.
So
Whereas-
but the capital equipment reserve fund, we're adding 10,000,
We're adding
Sis-
20.
adding
It's gonna-
20. Ah,
Ideally,
I see.
Yeah, ideally
Okay.
it's going from 10 to 30.
Okay,
Yeah, and then the 60 in the vehicle reserve fund going from 167 to 227. Yeah,
okay.
okay.
Mm-hmm. Could you go back to the previous page?
Yes.
Whereabouts are we thinking?
Well, my other question is about the payroll increase in the base pay for firefighters and EMS personnel. I know that was a 2-year agreement, which brings us to the 20 as the base plus steps for education and training. But what is the plan going forward? Are we going to be good at the 20 base rate next year? Or are we going to be looking at a request for additional increases?
I will say one thing to start that is the idea behind the two-step increase was to get our firefighters close to the surrounding jurisdictions. They're not quite there, but they're much closer. I think they're within probably 10% right now.
I'm concerned that's low. $18 and $20 seems low.
We're not too far off,
Okay.
Van Delly.
All right.
Brian knows more about this
Of course.
because he works in Bath, et cetera. But that was the idea behind it. Once we're there, this is just speculation, from our conversations, is that it would be a cost of living increase.
Yeah.
From here on out. At least that's the way I understand it.
Well, I guess
Right.
that's my question to Brian, really.
Yeah, to answer that, Bronwyn, yeah, that's kind of what we're hoping for. We're trying to get it up to a rate that is comparable for the area. And we're, like Terry said, we're very, very close to that now. So next year we'll look at really hard if it's going to be more of a cost of living increase for next year or more of a another bigger jump to get us close to that spot, so that it's like I said, comparable. So we'll look into that and we'll kind of evaluate that kind of end of this calendar year, kind of see where we're at and where everybody else is at too, because I'm sure that like everybody else is probably going to increase a little bit also. So we'll see where we're at come like December, January next year.
Well, I guess my other observation would just be that most of the people, at least it's my understanding, that most of the people on our roster of firefighters and EMS are not doing this here because they could earn $20 or they could earn 18 someplace else. They're doing it here because they live here and they want to be of service to the community. And I'm not suggesting that we should take advantage of that, only that in terms of meeting the standard of professional firefighters in Bath, for instance, I'm just not sure that that's a realistic goal for us.
Yeah, I would agree with that, and that's not my goal either. I'm not trying to bring these salaries up to anywhere near where Earth is at. again, because that's a professional department with full-time employees and whatnot. This is going to match the per diem type employee positions that West Bath, Woolwich, and Phippsburg are putting on right now, because that's kind of where we're more in line with. And you're absolutely right. The people who are here in Georgetown and on this department are mostly here to serve their community and help out their neighbors, and we're really fortunate for that. But just like you said, there's absolutely no way we should be taking advantage of their service by paying them in a rate that is, significantly below, what their basically counterparts are getting in other places. I think it's our obligation to make sure that their very limited time, which they're willing to give us in the town, is fairly compensated.
Well, the other thing I think is important to understand, that these people are only paid when they go out on a call. If they don't show up for a call, they're not getting any pay. And just like if they don't show up for training, they don't get paid for those hours. So it's really a fairly limited amount of hours that they actually work. If this was full-time,
Right,
the bill would be
right.
one whole heck of
Yeah.
a lot higher.
Yeah, we couldn't do it.
For sure, yeah.
That's a great point. Thank you for that.
Yeah, and I will add that I know it's like a lot, and it is a lot, especially relative to where we have been the last few years. But yeah, like Bob kind of alluded to, if we were going to get these type of services in a different way, whether that was contracted or for somebody else or hiring outside people, the cost would be significantly higher than it is now.
Thank you.
But Brian, was there anything else you wanted to add to Terry's and my comments on this section of the budget?
No, you guys hit all the high points and the right points and the right lines there. So that was
Okay.
nothing to add there.
Okay, good enough, thank you.
I know Aria had other budget area questions, I believe. Did
For
we,
the fire department?
I believe you said that after fire department, we had some other areas,
Oh,
cause I
yeah.
think we're
Yeah, this,
approaching the end of the fire department.
yeah, I'm good with the fire department.
Yep.
Let me go back. You caught me off guard, because I was still thinking about the fire department.
That's okay.
Give me a minute, okay?
That's
Let's
fine.
not waste
Take your
time.
time.
Let's go forward
Sure.
with anybody else who wants to look at a budget.
Were there other areas,
Looking at the
Bronwyn or
sheets now.
John, that you had questions on?
Not particularly,
The harbor committee went up $8.
Oh,
They did some shifting around, but that was all they did. Shellfish committee's up a little bit. They are doing some hatchery seed purchases.
Yep.
That money will be, paid for. They did some fundraising for that. So that money will be coming from their, shellfish seeding money. So,
and they have to spend the money they get first, right? Is that how
Correct,
that works,
yes.
so.
yes, yeah, they'll be spending, currently they have $4,600 that they have raised so far. And I think we have an invoice for like 500 or 600 now, and then I do believe that they plan to do another seeding in June.
Yeah.
Before the end of the fiscal year,
Right.
so that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Their revenue went up slightly because they changed the price on their 7-day non-resident licenses. Up from 25 to 35, so there was, a little bit of an increase there. And what else? Solid waste is up about 4.2%. The majority of that,
That's one of the ones I wanted to see. Can we take a look at that sheet? Oh, yeah,
sure,
Please.
sure, that's page 20, that's page 20.
You're gonna drive that sweet car around, you gotta talk.
Oh, there you go.
Bronwyn, is this font okay? Is it too small?
a little too small, a little bigger. That's better.
Just wanted to see. Yeah. I wanted
Your
to
screen
see
is
that.
so big, it probably looks huge. but-
I was just trying to get it all onto one page, but
I wanted to look at the hauling and those
Yes.
recycling, okay, that's the stuff I wondered about for this budget.
Hauling
Okay.
and tipping.
The hauling and tipping fees have gone up we bumped that up by 4.5%. They're continually under budget on that line.
Yeah,
So I think that that's a half decent number. The recycling contract is what we pay to Lincoln County. That contract has already come in, so that is a good solid number. The one I'm a little leery on is the household hazardous waste.
Yeah.
We've only bumped that up by 1,500. So I'm a little concerned. I think, hold on 2 seconds.
We'd already spent 1412 through January on that.
All right.
On one event.
So at one event, and we have our next event coming up. And the spring event is usually the big one, when
Right.
people are cleaning out their, you know, their things, so. We currently have, $1,087 left in that budget line. It was at 2,500, so they have bumped it up to 4,000. I'm just concerned that it might not be enough. But they do have, you know, a $2,000 contingency that they can utilize should they need it, so. But yeah, so we've done the same thing here. We've bumped the station attendance up 2%. And we've, you know, looked at utilities and bumped them up a little bit. I do believe that they will be going, doing something with the phone, but we've bumped that anyway. I think you guys have heard us complaining about the, consolidated communication phone costs, at both the town office and the transfer station that just went through the roof at the beginning.
yeah.
It went from like $30 to like 70 a month or something like that, just for the plan itself. So I think that the solid waste committee will be looking at voice over internet
I
for
was just
their,
gonna ask, okay.
for their, phone, and then, of course, they already have the internet down there, the Wi-Fi down there. So, so we have bumped that, we actually dropped that line just a little bit. We think, you know, that they're gonna go the other direction.
Yeah,
and again-
they intend to do voice over internet.
Yes.
There's
yes.
been some delay, in an individual person who was going to take care of it.
Yeah, so, I'm not,
And what about the universal hazardous waste? What are the actuals on that?
that one.
Is that one in a similarly?
No,
That was
it's
the
not.
1312 through January
Okay, that is.
for one event.
Okay,
And
that
it's a
is.
No, no,
smaller of typically 2 events.
No, this is she's talking about the universal. one, which is
universal.
now a monthly pickup,
Oh.
right? It's right, because it's at 2,700 through the end of March.
Was that like the
Um,
computers and?
It is, it's all the
Right.
computer
lights and
stuff, yeah, and all the lights and the batteries and this and that, the problem is that they've started charging $100 transportation fee for every trip that they come down. Which was new, and then there was, now a $70 an hour labor charge, which was also new. So, so that line, you know, again, might be a little bit low. But again, I'm hoping that they can utilize their contingency if that's the case, you know?
And this is our only potential vendor? I know. we've
Yes.
been
We
using-
have North
Yeah.
Coast, yes, it's the only one we could, yeah.
Yeah, do we does the truck get filled up or do we run out of space? Is that why they have to do it every
I
month?
believe they come, I'm not sure exactly, they used to come
It's
almost.
1 month.
They now come once a month, but they used to come every 2 or 3 months. I'm not sure why they're doing it.
Well, if they can charge
Monthly.
$100 a
Right, that's what
trip,
I'm saying,
yeah, I
if
mean,
they
Right.
can.
Yeah.
So we may be able to work with them to get them not to come
Right,
monthly,
right.
every other month or something. I don't know.
I can't
We
say
can ask.
Jim and the crew over there are very frugal.
Oh, yes.
Of course.
If they're going to
Absolutely.
save a dollar, they're
Yeah.
going to do it.
Absolutely,
If-
yes.
If you go over there and you look in the shed where they keep all that stuff,
It's
it's
packed.
jam packed.
Oh, yeah.
And people, you know, more and more people are throwing more and more stuff away because of, it's electronics. If you don't keep up with it, it doesn't work.
Right.
And there's
So-
nothing else you can do with it. You can't recycle it, so
Right. Yeah. So overall, I mean, I think, you know, the training line's down because DEP has not offered that training in a few years.
and some of it you can now do on Zoom.
Correct.
Correct,
Online.
yes. Some of it you can do online now, so you don't have to. Yeah, and I think, in fact, I think they came up, and sat around the table here, didn't they?
They did.
And did some training up here.
I even got a certificate.
There you go. So anyway, yeah, the budget's up 4.2%. So, you know, about $10,000.
I'd say
And
it's a
they-
hold the line budget.
Right, agreed. They are putting, not seeing it at the moment. Yes, they are putting $4,000 into their reserve fund, as they did this year. The quote has come in for, you know, to replace that compactor, should they need to, at a little over 26,000, 26,488. So, and when they put the 4,000 in there, they'll be back to the 26,000. As you know, a couple years ago, they did that, roof over the, compactor and the bulky waste, and they took quite a bit of money from their reserve fund.
35,000.
Yeah, you see it going down between June 23 and June 24. That was them utilizing some of that fund, to help with that roof.
But they got,
Basically, the idea behind the reserve fund, this reserve fund was to make sure we have enough to replace that compactor if it goes
If
out
we
on
need
us.
to, right, no, it's.
And that's why every year Jim's been pricing it,
Right.
to make sure that we have the reserve fund where we need it.
I-
they got their money's worth out of that roof,
I
that's for sure.
Oh, yeah.
appreciate it,
Oh,
I remember-
for the old one? Yeah,
I
they
remember
did.
putting it, you
Yeah.
know, help put it up, so.
Mhm.
Appreciate that. All right.
Yeah.
I
So-
think this might be a good time to note the value of reserve funds. Reserve funds at the wharf were critical to having the money to do the repairs we needed to do before we got reimbursed from FEMA.
Right.
In a time when money is tight, in a time of potential recession, having reserve funds is extremely important for the town to be able to navigate tough times ahead. So I just want to, because I know there's always a debate about whether we should just borrow money or have money in reserve. And the answer ends up to be we need some of both. But having some money in the bank, there's just nothing like it when you have a need.
Agreed.
Yep. Yeah,
All right, I'm just, I'm looking at budgets that are up,
Sure.
more than,
for sure.
6-7%. And so I think the next one we've already heard about shellfish. We know what that is about.
Yeah.
Can we take a look at health, rec and human services budget, please?
Sure. Yeah.
What page?
Hold on. 23.
We're going the wrong way, oh my goodness.
Yeah, 23 and 24.
There we are.
Yeah, so, what page you on this one? Okay. So, the health, recreation and social services, the top part of this section is those, what do I want to say, nonprofit, well, some of them aren't nonprofits,
Charitable requests.
but those charitable requests that, the town receives. There were 3 that came in this year that either came in late or came in, I think actually all of them came in late. The Bath Area YMCA for $400. So you see that there's a difference between what's in budget and what the FAC recommended. And that is due to the Bath Area YMCA coming in late. Maine Public, although it was on time, we've never funded Maine Public. And the FAC had made a stand that we weren't funding anything new. So Bath Area YMCA, although it says new here, we used to fund that years ago. I think the last time, it was quite a few years ago since we've done that. The same thing for Tedford Shelter, that came in at $1,000 this year. And although that's a great program, it came in a little bit late. So that's why the FAC did not recommend it. we had, we had shut off, we had made a date and we'd stuck with it, so.
So Mary, I'm confused then. It
Sure.
says budget 25-26, then it says FAC recommendation. So
Right.
what is in the draft budget? The 4,000?
No, well, yeah, it looks like it.
Yes, I put in the budget what was requested,
Okay,
okay? And then this is what the FAC recommends. So it will be up to the board whether or not they want to present the YMCA, Maine Public, or Tedford. We never heard
I
from
see.
Sweetser this year, People's Plus. We have our own group of folks that are doing the volunteer ride sharing and all of that stuff. So Jim Peavy said that was not gonna be requested this year.
No request from Midcoast Maine or
Right.
Midcoast.
Yeah. And I will say that in the past, a couple of times, the town administrator and the finance director, at least in the Midcoast Maine Community Action, we have put that in the budget regardless of whether or not they made it on time. But they didn't even send a request this year. Midcoast Maine Community Action is a group up in Bath that does a lot with LIHEAP, a lot with budgeting for folks. They've got some good support systems working up there. And we send a lot of our general assistance clients up there to get some budgeting advice, to, make sure they're signed up for all of the services that they offer.
But they
So,
didn't submit a request
They
this
did
year?
not submit a request this year.
I see Lifelight didn't this year either, but we
Right.
haven't given.
We haven't given to them in the past,
Right.
so,
so
the
if we
question will
just,
be whether, whoops, go ahead,
if we
sorry,
just
Dawn.
go through the list of people who, with the list of organizations,
Sure,
the Bath Activities Center, been giving them $800 a year for the
Right.
last 3. The
Yeah.
area food bank, we've
yep,
been giving 700,
yep,
but food banks are under incredible pressure and
right,
are losing a lot of federal money at the moment. And the Y,
700 was what they requested.
right,
that was before all the slashing in Washington, right?
yes, it would have been, yes,
Big Brother, Big Sisters, constant. Life Flight, we've not funded and they haven't asked. Maine Public would be new. Midcoast Community Action didn't ask, which is strange. What
right.
is New Hope Midcoast? They didn't ask this year?
They did not ask this year. That's a woman's domestic violence thing. They did not ask any.
Okay, and Oasis Free Clinics? What's that?
Is usually dental, I believe dental. I believe it's dental, Brahman.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Spectrum Generations? That's pretty consistent with what they've previously asked for.
Yeah,
And Sweetser didn't ask for money.
no,
And I'll note that Tedford Shelter did not know the request process because they've had changeover at the folks running the Tedford Shelter.
Right.
And I know that after meeting with them on St. Patrick's Day, they had a letter in the next day.
Right,
Albeit still at the tail end of our process, but I just wanted to flag at least there, as soon as they knew we had a deadline, they were trying to meet it, but just barely.
do we have a sense, I was gonna ask you, cause I know you did the site visit, do we have a sense of how many of our community members have accessed the shelter?
It varies and it's really hard in meeting with their executive director
Yeah.
because a lot of the folks that are utilizing the shelter
Right,
won't even give any
Right,
identifying
right.
info.
that's right.
yeah,
That's also one of the things when somebody makes a request, they have to give some,
demographics, right, some data.
just
Some
data
information.
as to, what they give to
Right,
Georgetown
right,
residents.
right.
Uh,
That's why I asked, I
Yeah.
wondered if we had any data, but I knew you had just had the site visit, so wasn't sure, yeah.
Yeah.
It's obviously helpful to us, and when we make these decisions,
Yeah.
to know, how much they're serving our community. For instance, I have a better sense of what Big Brother, Big Sister does because of the events they've had.
Right,
You know,
right, yeah.
Often.
And what about the
other requests would be
senior-
some
activity center, the Bath Seniors Activity Center. Do a lot of our people utilize that?
Well, I believe they do.
I don't have the,
I mean, John Hens goes there and he would be able to give us some anecdotal information.
And they're delivering their newsletter quite often.
Right, Yeah.
They deliver it, yeah.
I think that's. Anyway,
Well,
Yeah, so
I
the
f-
question is whether or not you would wanna go with the FAC's recommendation here or make one yourself. Really?
And this might be a good time to ask Mary, when should the board be getting their decision-making hat for those kind of decisions? When would be a good expectation to revisit?
Well, I would say at their next meeting prior, to
Yes.
you know, you can think about it between now and then, but we wanna get this on the website,
the town budget meeting is May
14th.
14th.
May
Right.
14th.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
so who's the liaison to the, actually, no, there's no liaison. So
No, there
who's
isn't.
making what, so when we look at these requests from Bath area seniors and the food bank, when FAC is making the recommendation, who of the FAC is making that recommendation? Is that you, is that,
It's a committee, it's a whole committee.
is the whole committee making
Yeah.
a decision? So you're getting those requests and you're making a decision based on that?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
did, for instance, for the data from the first and the second lines, did they give us a sense of how many people are accessing to Bronwyn's
I-
point
I'm
about?
almost sure that they did, I
Okay.
probably got the sheets over
Yeah.
there.
Okay,
Yeah, I know that the food bank did,
of course,
I
yeah.
know the food
I-
bank did.
I see.
Seniors, I'm not 100% sure about that. I just know that, a bunch of our seniors do go up.
Sure, yes,
So,
of course, okay.
yeah, yeah.
All right,
I guess what I would say is my personal immediate reaction would be that I'd like to see us give some money to Tedford Shelter because we don't have a shelter. We're not going to have a shelter for homeless people. It's not just about heat. And they are the only resource in our region in that respect. I'm not necessarily saying we should give them $1,000, but I hate to see us not support them. And I think that food and food banks are going to be under increasing pressure and are vital to the vulnerable population among us. I wanted to, Bath Brunswick Respite Care. Why is that on there if they haven't asked or gotten money in the last 3 cycles? Or did they ask and we didn't give it? And this year they didn't ask?
I'm wondering if they asked last year and we didn't give it to them, but I'll cut that line right out of there, Bronwyn, and my thought is they asked us for money last year. We just didn't fund it because it would have been a new thing.
Because
That
again,
go ahead.
respite care is a service that probably many of our people need.
Right,
Um,
agreed, yes.
Anyone with having to care for a family member knows how important respite care is.
Right, yeah.
And I guess one of the questions I have, did you have a sense when y'all were looking at these, whether Spectrum Generations can duplicates any of the other, services provided by? But we're only giving to them in the Bath area, so perhaps not.
we didn't look at that specifically, but in years past, I have looked at it, and there is an awful lot of overlap in it.
Right.
You know, with the different organizations, they do overlap, provide the same services.
Right.
And so it, makes it somewhat difficult.
Yeah, I mean, I'd appreciate being able to see, Spectrum, for instance, the Spectrum Generations letter, the seniors activities letter, and the food bank, just so it gives me a little bit more information to,
For sure.
if we're gonna play with the numbers. I know we got the Tedford, I remember seeing that. And I assume we got these as they came in.
Yes, and they
Yeah.
were populating in as funding request letters on
Right.
agendas. And then typically copies of those would get passed on to Mary to be in the master set. And
Sure,
I think Lisa Sabatine was the liaison for letters on FAC.
Okay. So, cause that would be my concern, you know, if there's a duplication of efforts, then we go down perhaps on, you know, Spectrum, just using that as an example. And give a little bit more, drop, you know, 200 down to Tedford or
Mhm.
200 up to the food bank, you know, just looking at the discussion we're having or somewhere else.
Right.
You know, how many of our residents are using the Oasis free clinics? Do we have a sense? I mean,
Right,
is that appropriate
I'll
amount?
pull letters for you.
Most of the letters will tell you, a lot of
Yeah.
them will say this many people attended.
Yeah, that's
times-
great. I
That's
mean,
how I believe how we got the Spectrum generation number.
That's-
So
that'd
many
be great.
people Times this per person.
yeah, that's good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
Julie Pankey says in the chat that
I can't see that.
respite care
hang on.
asked, respite
Go to
care
your
asked
vein.
for 800 last year, but it wasn't funded because
There
they
you
were
go.
new.
okay, respite asked for 800 last
Yeah.
year and was
Yeah.
new and,
Yeah.
okay, got it. Thank you, Julie. All right. You know, and so they may have some overlap with Spectrum. I just, but there is somebody looking at that, or do you have a sense of that?
We have not looked at it specifically this year.
Right,
Okay,
no, we haven't. No.
okay. And we may not make any different decisions, but it would be helpful if we're thinking that we want to give some money to Tedford and pull some from somewhere else.
Sure.
Or, you know, pull some out of Oasis because only 2 residents went there and give more to the food bank or to the seniors activity
Mhm.
center.
Well, it looks as if the total for this charitable area is down from previous.
Right.
Yep.
Not just down from the budget request for this year, but down from the 5,000 of 2 years before that. Am I reading
Yes.
that correctly?
You are,
Yeah.
you are reading that correctly, Bronwyn. Even with the things the FAC is not request or is not putting in, it's still $600 under where it was last year.
The
That's
requests.
because, you know, in requests, that's, you know, Sweeter's a big one at 1,200. Midcoast Maine Community Action at 525 and not receiving those, you know,
Mm-hmm.
so,
Hmm.
yeah. But I certainly will pull letters and scan them off to you.
Yeah, thank you. I just think it's a moment in time when we need to pay attention, even though our budget is tight. The budget for all of these caregiving organizations are being threatened and tightened, and their services become even more important.
And
Right.
Mary, you don't, as far as I'm concerned, we can pick it up. I don't wanna give you more work to do, scanning
sure.
letters to us.
That's fine.
I can swing by and get the
For
packet.
sure, for
Okay.
sure.
Thank you.
I can
Yeah.
do that too. Yeah,
I'll
you
just
don't
get
have to
'em ready
scan
so
it.
You can, yeah,
Yeah,
for sure. For
Are you-
sure.
Are you content with your, moving down farther after the, stuff we went through this year with general assistance? Are you
right.
content with that number at this point?
I am,
Okay.
yeah.
Barring any unforeseen
We,
circumstances.
as you all recall, we had a special town meeting last year and we bumped the general assistance budget up to 20,000. And we've used about 8,600 of that this year. But I'm happy with the 8,000 at this point, you know? Patent Free Library came in with a 7.7% increase, up about, you know, almost $2,000. The Recreation Committee went down and everybody else remained flat, so. I'm sorry, actually, that's not true. GA we doubled, just because, and again, it's 12,000 less than we've got in budget this year, and then the community center came in and Richards Library came in the same as last year. So,
Okay, thank you.
and the recreation budget is the next page, which flows up to that, and you see that that's down 11%. And really, I think it's more them just shifting things around between lines. And then taking a couple out,
Yeah, and
yeah,
Guy is funding the swim lesson, so that takes out 900
right,
Yeah.
from their budget, and
That
so
was-
that's great.
That was significant.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah. So,
Were there
Alright.
other sheets we wanted to look at? Are we,
Just. I,
Did this-
Cemetery went down, right? And that was because
cemetery
It
went,
was because it was stone wall.
cemetery went down because they had budgeted last year, over 50,000 to do the stone wall down in Five Islands. They're going to be taking some of that money out of their fund as they, were going to last year. They took, they were gonna try to take 54,000 out of their fund and fund the whole 54. The auditors had come back on that and said, no, part of that money was restricted. So they backed it down to 33, and they're still working with, Randall Look to see about getting that work done this year. And that's already been approved by a previous town meeting, so that would, be used as a accrual for this year if he gets the project started.
do we wanna look at the McMahon budget?
we
Or,
can't, I mean, there's nothing we can do about that.
no,
It's
I
a
just, yeah,
percentage.
right, I
It's-
just wanna,
and it's up because the
right,
evaluations
Right.
went up. Yeah,
and I wanted
Yeah.
people to know that, I wanted them to hear that y'all
Yep.
are saying
Yep.
that. For the reason, so that when we get to town meeting, they're not
Yeah.
asking that.
so what we do is we go through and we look at every property. We look at 3 tax maps virtually. 15U, 16U, I think, and 11R, something like that. Anything that has a property owned by McMahon Island.
Yeah.
And then we take, as this reads, 20% of what they paid in taxes last year and give it back to the inhabitants of the island in the following year.
And that is the formula, in case
Yeah.
y'all are wondering.
But they do use refuse.
Correct, yes.
All right.
and just for the posterity's sake, nothing in the special and private law said they could not use refuse.
Right,
It just is harder for them to get to the mainland with said refuse, which is why
right,
we learned a lot about this.
yeah.
Well, I'll keep my mouth shut.
I don't think I have any more questions. Thank you.
So- I'll hit stop shares. We can all see each other again.
I don't
Okay.
know.
So pretty much what I'm asking the select board to think about tonight. Is what they wanna do with social services. And I mean, we've already talked a few times about the salaries.
Mhm.
So the question would be whether or not we go with the salaries that we've placed in this budget here. So that I can continue with my calculations and get the other stuff done, that's all. And that really applies to transfer station, town office, and the
Yeah.
fire department.
Yeah.
I mean, this is just about it for salaries.
Hmm.
Yeah. So, so that's just something you guys need to
Yeah,
think about.
You've got a couple of odd ones,
Right, cemetery,
harbor committee.
yeah, and cemetery and shellfish, and so, yeah, and animal control, but we don't,
And we
Haven't been
shared
doing
that
it.
codes officer.
right, and
Right.
codes and all that,
Yes,
yeah,
yes,
so,
codes also.
yes.
And just for what it's
So-
worth on the code line, they are doing different cost of living in the other towns.
Right.
What are
Right.
they doing in the other towns?
I believe Woolwich was closer to 3.5. The last I heard, and I did not get a Rousix number, but I do know. Just on that even shake, it will be shifting a little bit. With our, I think we're at 2%.
We are at 2%.
where's it? Okay, yeah, that's what I'm saying in this budget.
Yeah. Yeah, we are. Cause we said 2% across the board, and that's how we proceeded,
Okay,
other than for the fire department.
And
But that was due to,
I have,
That was
From
due
last
to our
time.
agreement
Last-
last
yeah,
year,
last year.
yes.
I have to say that Mike does an excellent job.
Amen to that.
Mike Field?
Mike Field,
Yes,
yes,
he does.
yes. Yeah. Yeah. He's not, he's not afraid to take it on, and he's doing a good job.
So in terms of the next meeting, we will be seeking a vote from the board to send this on to a public hearing,
Yes, when do they meet again?
May 6th.
That's
Yeah.
the public hearing too.
May 6th is the ordinance hearing, right?
Mhm.
Mhm.
Okay. So the question is, yeah, I guess,
Or
Right.
correction, May sixth is the hearings. We could always schedule a special meeting after if we need to, but the next select board meeting
Is
is
the
the 13th.
13th. Yeah.
yeah, that's too late.
That is too late.
The third,
Yeah,
because this
the
is the
budget
14th,
meeting-
right,
14th.
right. I'd like to
So-
get this to the website. So I wouldn't mind if you guys could meet on the 6th, just to say yay or nay on the budget.
Yeah.
Going
Yeah.
forward as it sits and
Well,
making corrections.
You may not have a county budget by then.
We often don't have a county budget, right? By the
Yeah.
time I mean, we've even voted at town meeting without a county budget.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But we're looking to set the budget the night of the sixth,
yes,
set a special meeting for that purpose.
yeah,
Cause we have those hearings and then we
Yep.
can do that right after.
yeah, and then I can get it to the website the next day, you know?
So how long do we think that the ordinance hearing will be? What do we have, 3?
3, and then we are possibly gonna have another hearing that night as well. Which is an agenda item that we'll talk about the Blueberry Hill Road easement,
Good.
which I imagine that will have more people in attendance than the ordinance hearings. Because the ordinance hearings either come from the state or are very
Right.
minor.
Right, exactly,
Right.
so. Do we have to have the Blueberry, road?
No, we're going to talk about that later, right?
Yeah, okay, I'm just trying to figure out May 6th here for
Right,
our purposes to get this document
Right.
ready.
I think we
Alright.
could just say that we're going to have a special meeting
Yeah,
following
yeah.
the ordinance hearing or following
I
the
agree.
hearing May 6th.
7 p.m.
We don't have
or
to, whatever
immediately
time it
following.
is.
Immediate follow.
Perfect.
Yeah.
okay, all right, perfect. So on May 6th,
So that might be 6:15.
Yeah.
right, right,
I have a hunch Blueberry Hill, which we'll get to, will take it probably 6:30. Just my hunch.
okay,
If we schedule Blueberry Hill for the 6th,
Yes.
right,
so
okay.
we may not.
Really?
Okay, thank you. So, please, if you have any questions, reach out.
Yep.
I will, I'll go through and I will, do my FICA and my paid family medical as though the wages are going through as is. And then I'll send off, or I'll get those, sheets from the donation request for you.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay, no problem at all.
Thank you,
Also,
Ed.
thank you to Mary. She makes this process, even though it's quite involved at times, much easier.
I thank you. And
Yeah.
I could never do it without the FAC. That's all I can say about
Your pepper.
that. That's for sure. So,
And with that, Mary, would you like to take a minute to breathe and we can jump to the fire chief, or would you like to dive right into your
let's
update
just
now?
get it done.
Amen to
Don't
that.
you need some water, Mary?
Yeah, right.
I think she needs something stronger than that.
Right.
Gotta hang on
So
to
just
that
for my update, we just did a bunch of it, but the engagement letter with RHR Smith for the audit for the end of this fiscal year has been signed and sent off to them. On the last warrant, you probably saw a 50% down payment for the audit costs. Ever since we lost Purdy Powers, we pay RHR Smith also to do our fixed assets. Whether we add them, subtract them, they are keeping track of that for us. So that engagement letter has also been signed. And as I said earlier, the auditors are still working on June 2024. I'm hopeful to have it at the end of this month or early May. You got your March financial statements. Any questions at all, please reach out. The budget document was forwarded, as we just talked about. And again, this is a live document. It is currently on our website. Tyler will pull that down when he puts the new one, when he puts the actual approved one up. I do believe he's got on there that it's a draft budget. And then I'll be working on the quarterly sick and vacation time, just so I can update those numbers in here. And we'll be doing the opera reports and paid family medical leave this week. I really wanted to get it done like the second day of April, but with everything going on with me, I wasn't able to do that. So, anyway, I believe that's all for me for an update. So,
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you, Mary.
yes.
And with that, Chief Whalen, you are up for a fire chief update.
All right, thanks, Tyler. Excuse me. Not a lot of update to be had, which is good for us. Since we saw you guys last, we've had let's see, 17 total calls. 15 of those were EMS calls, 2 were fire calls. One of those calls was MC1 came down and was the only EMS provider. We didn't have any Georgetown EMS providers, though we did have a driver for that. So that's just something to keep in mind. It's not happening a lot, but it is. We are lucky that we have that available to us. So that's what we've been doing for calls. Nothing major in there. Just some, mostly run of the mill calls type. The last, let's see, not this past Saturday, sorry, but the Saturday before and the Monday before that, we did some fire training on our forestry equipment. Kind of got that kind of up and running for the season. Big thanks to Mike McMahon, who tore down 3 of the 4 carburetors for our small engines and got those all spiffed up. So now they all run first pull. So thanks to Mike for that. Which we did do forestry training last 2 years ago in the snow because it was a beautiful day out, but we were doing training anyway. It was very odd feeling to be doing the forestry training for the spring in the snow, but it was we actually pretended the snow was the fire, and actually worked out really nice. But then just a week later we had our first red flag warning of the spring season. Thankfully we had no problems here in town and very few problems in Saginaw County total. Although all around us it seemed like they were really, really busy on Easter Sunday there where it was so dry and windy. So again, fairly fortunate that everybody in Georgetown was following the rules and being really smart with their outdoor burning, which I know everyone's got piles of stuff in their yard, and I appreciate everyone holding off until it is damp and nice and wet out. So, so we got all the forestry stuff up and running, ready to go if we need it. Hopefully we don't, but should be all there. All of our vehicles are in service right now. A couple of the ambulances got a couple little minor repairs last week, so they can get their inspection stickers. But again, nothing major there. And let's see, upcoming, we're continuing to do additional training with our new members and the current members. And we've had a pretty good turnout for trainings generally recently, which has been really heartening to have. So we're doing well with that. Trying to schedule a live fire training up at the training site in Bath for middle of May. We put on our regular training day, and we try to get all of our interior qualified firefighters to get a little bit of practice in a actual real smoky building with hay and pallets on fire and things like that. So that's what the site's there for, and we're really fortunate that it's so close and easily accessible for us. So we're trying to get that scheduled up. We'll probably be doing that with West Bath, Woolwich, and Rouseck. Because it takes more than one department to be able to put on that level of training. So I'm working with the other chiefs there to get that scheduled. We also have another additional training in May coming up. We're doing a pumps class for the members here. We got it opened up to a couple outside departments also. And so we got a couple extra slots there. So get our members up on their pump training for the fire trucks. It's not super simple, but it's not also breakthrough. So we're going to refresh some of the current members and get some of the new ones up to speed on that. So I'm looking forward to that. Ongoing training. We're getting our utilizing our new ESO software suite, which you guys mentioned earlier. We're getting that up and going. I've got a bunch of folks who are adding equipment to the list on online there, and we got the vehicles all plugged in, and just a matter of getting the stuff logged into the system basically. But the personnel side of things is going pretty well. So I'm working on getting everyone's files kind of updated in there. But I think I think we made the right decision after working with it for a couple months here, that this is really going to be a huge asset for us once we get it going. So I'm looking forward to getting that fully operational. It's we're working on it, but it's a work in progress, and we all knew it would take months to get it kind of up and going, but we're on the way. So that's what I've got for you guys, unless any other questions.
Any questions for Brian?
I don't have any off the top of
No,
my head.
thanks, Brian.
Thank you, Brian.
Okay, thank you guys. Have a good night.
Good report. Thank you.
So we'll now be pivoting to old business, and the lone item on the agenda tonight is to set the date of candidates night, and Tuesday, May 20th at 6 p.m. is the best date. It also means that everyone can be there.
Cool.
So we're gonna make
Motion.
them. Is John Collins?
And we've confirmed everybody can do that.
Everybody that I
all the
was
candidates.
able to
Okay,
talk with,
okay. And Nancy's locked in, we've got the gym
yes,
and hybrid, okay.
and
Would this be a good moment to list the candidates now that nomination petitions have been filed? Because I'm
Let's-
not sure we've done that anywhere.
let's take a vote first on setting candidates night, then I can talk about everyone that's invited.
Okay,
That way we just get it done.
Yep, so, I'll make a motion that candidates night be Tuesday, May 20th, 6 P.M. At the Georgetown Center School Gymnasium, hybrid, and moderator will be Nancy Kinner.
Thank you, John.
I'll second that.
All right,
Everybody in favor?
and
Sure.
that is 3-0. And so I would say for the office of select board, Katie Goodwin and Kelly James are running for that seat. For the school committee seat, Jen Dobransky is unopposed. For the cemetery district trustees, Carol Start is unopposed. For town clerk and tax collector, Angela Mead is running for both, also known as Angie, unopposed. Jeff Chevital has pulled papers after many years of convincing and is running unopposed for the TOPMB. And lastly, we have the road commissioners race with John Collins and Dale Savoy running, and that would be contested.
thank you.
And we will be getting a spot on the website when Alex is back in. I want to have an elections information tab where we can get some good resources, but I want to definitely work in tandem with the clerk on what kind of info would be good there, but it'll be user friendly and easier to find than the upcoming select board meeting information tab.
Okay.
And so with that, unless there are any questions, discussions for candidates night, I would move on to new business, and we have 2 memorandums of understanding to approve. The first one between the town of Georgetown and Georgetown Central School. I know that these MOUs, I'll just speak to the process for both. We had the Conservation Commission work directly with the relevant stakeholders until there was agreement on both sides, so these MOUs don't need to be brought back again like they were previously.
I'll move to approve both MOUs.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
All right, thank you very much. And we will have you sign those, John, before you leave. And their next item is to determine whether or not to schedule a public hearing on May 6th regarding the Blueberry Hill Road proposed septic easement. At a previous select board meeting, the board seemed to be interested in the idea of having a public hearing where residents could come in and offer their thoughts on said easement and whether or not it should be brought forward to town meeting and for inclusion on the warrant. I will say that I have a draft letter put together for all of the residents of Blueberry Hill Road. I've worked with Mike Field to get a good synopsis of the project because he can speak it way better than I can. And that would be sent again to everyone on Blueberry Hill Road, abutters, so they'd know at least that the hearing is happening, similar to our West Georgetown ATV
Right.
process. And then after said hearing, the select board would still have to decide whether or not they wanted to include that item on the warrant for future town consideration in June. That said, nothing is saying the board has to schedule a hearing, but needs to happen tonight if that's our plan, given that we won't have a board meeting before that hearing. We'll have one after now, but I digress.
Regardless, we're gonna have some public input on this, no matter what. I mean, before we can do anything, we wanna know what the people think about it, I would imagine.
There is a train of thought that if you put it directly on the warrant, the townspeople and all of those neighbors, abutters, et cetera, would still be able to have an opportunity to speak then or forever hold their peace. Still, before the select board put it before all townsfolk, this would give an opportunity whether or not there's even a stomach. So
Mhm.
there are 2 trains of thought on it.
I'm I would not like to lump it in on the sixth.
Just because of the,
I'm
all
just,
the others. No, I'm,
are you with me on that a little bit?
because we got the, yeah.
I
What
don't
do
see
you-
why would you schedule yet another
No,
night of hearings?
I've,
I mean, I don't think there'll be much interest in the ordinance hearing. And this is, to me, they're all of the same type. We're talking about things that will be on the warrant that you're going to have to vote on. And this is your opportunity to ask questions and to understand what the issue is. So I don't think
How much
it's,
information? Yeah, I guess I'm just concerned about how much information we'll have before May sixth. That's,
we have all the information.
we have enough,
Right.
okay. All right.
I don't know
because
what
that's
more
enough.
information we could have. I mean,
It's
there's
all we're going with, yeah,
the easement exists. Though they already have an easement from the owner of the road to dig under it. And although I haven't reviewed it in detail, Mike
Yeah.
shared with us the draft of an easement for the town
yeah,
to let them use our land. And my concerns are only that it needs to delineate exactly the area that we're talking about, because there's no other indication of what's town land and what isn't. And because I don't want to commit any land beyond what is necessary for this project, and I want to be sure that the town is protected against needing to maintain it after it exists. But you know,
that's kind of.
I don't think that there's more information or that we can't get all the necessary information by the time of that hearing. And I think if you schedule yet another public meeting, nobody will come.
We could, if the sixth is a tough evening for this board, on the night of the 13th, we will be having a select board meeting after the school public hearing, the school budget's public hearing, so we could always make that a part of the meeting on the 13th as well. Or it's a step that we wouldn't need to take, but it is, I know there was considerable discussion and no consensus, which is why we brought it back.
right.
But either the sixth or the 13th, anything after that really is cutting it too close for.
Yeah, I was saying either the sixth or the 13th. And if you two feel, you two have lived with this
Mhm.
question mark longer than me. So if you two feel comfortable having it on the sixth, then that,
I just as soon have it on the sixth, that way at
Okay.
least we get it out there and it's.
I think that's
something-
the most time, you know, the school budget and the select, the 13th, I think that's already a crowded meeting. And all we
Yeah.
have to do at our meeting on the 6th is make whatever recommendations we want to modify
And-
the budget before it goes to the hearing. So
right.
if we come in prepared with that, it should be fine.
Yeah, and Tyler, you have a sense of, I think you start off saying that there is a fair amount, or did I misunderstand? A fair amount of interest from neighbors
I
about
would,
this?
I would say that every neighbor will be getting a letter to notify them that this hearing
Right.
is happening.
Yeah,
I would say that I would expect some people from Blueberry Hill to come. I
Right.
would not say everyone. The good news is it's not a very long road.
right,
So there were
Yeah.
only so many of them.
right. All right, yeah,
So is there a motion to set a public hearing?
I move that we set a public hearing for the potential Blueberry Hill easement to coincide with or follow the ordinance hearing on the 6th
I'll
of May.
second that.
Perfect.
Everybody in favor or all in favor?
And that is unanimous. Thank you. And the last item of new business was on May 13th. We have a select board meeting scheduled for 6 o'clock. At 6 PM, there will also be a school budget hearing in the gymnasium. And so my recommendation is that we set the meeting on the 13th at 7 PM. And then we can still get our business done. It's like the old days when we were meeting at 7 and we'll be out of here before 9.
I agree.
Perfect.
I think that makes sense.
Is there a motion?
I move that we, for May 13th meeting, set that to begin at 7 PM.
All right. Second?
I'll second
Okay,
that.
sure.
All in favor?
And all in favor?
And with that, we are now done with new business. I would just note that the snowplow contracts are here to be signed. And I will need 2 board members to sign said contract, so we have a majority. And John is ineligible as one of them, so we will be seeing you later this week, Bronwyn, on that. And I
Okay,
have some proposed MOUs or now approved MOUs to be signed by John. So I turn this back to you for public comment, and then I have an executive session
Oh.
citation hand scratched too,
Yeah.
so.
Is there any public comment? I don't see any,
Shocking.
All right,
so.
pursuant to 1 RS.
Pursuant to 1 IRS section 405, section 6, section A, I move we enter executive session to discuss a personnel matter.
second,
See you tomorrow. All right, moved by John and Maria, all in favor was unanimous.
Was unanimous.
And I'm gonna
Thanks,
hit
Scott.
pause.
I'd like to make a motion that we increase the town administrator's salary beyond the COLA to a total of 64,000, starting with fiscal year 25 budget. 26
Sec-
budget, excuse me.
second,
All right, all in favor?
And that is unanimous.
Okay,
And I've got that down and it's recorded.
yes,
Thank you.
you're welcome. Thank you
And
for
we-
your great work.
Tyler, we would also like you to put on the agenda for our short May 6th meeting.
Yep.
Moving the town clerk's position from elected to appointed.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And I do know that Alex is working on a memo where as the outgoing town clerk, she really supports that move. And just wants to share that with the board, but between all of life events the last few weeks, it just hasn't come in
Yeah,
yet.
that's fine. We just want to have it in place so that it's not a surprise to the community when
Absolutely.
it happens at town meeting.
Makes sense to me.
That seems like the,
So are we thinking to have that as an agenda item on our meeting, or are we
Yes.
thinking to have that as a
Mhm.
public hearing piece?
does it?
No,
I mean, it's-
agenda.
Perfect.
agenda
Yeah,
item.
We don't need a public hearing on it. We're gonna
Perfect.
make that decision ourselves. Yeah.
And they can vote it down in the town hall, in the town meeting if they want to, right?
Right.
Okay.
And
no,
yell
that's-
and
that's-
scream at us in between if they choose.
Okay.
If they yell and scream at Tyler, that's why we're giving you a raise, Tyler.
I appreciate that.
Because you take the yelling and the screaming.
Not as often anymore.
So that will adjust the numbers to Mary.
Okay.
And we wanted her to have your numbers, tonight.
Absolutely.
Okay, or not tonight, but for her next review.
All right.
Okay.
Calculation
Um,
formula.
Yeah, thank you. Unless we have something else, I'm gonna move to adjourn.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Hey.
Bye,
still on
everybody.
before 8. Have a good night.
Okay, great. Thank you.